Welcome to Walking in Circles, a podcast about friendship, creativity, and the lifelong journey of becoming.
For more than 15 years, our group has gathered weekly to play, reflect, laugh, and share life. This season, 5 of us are on a creative pilgrimage, working through Julia Cameron's book, Walking in This World.
Each week, we explore what's bubbling up in our art, in our hearts, and our lives, as we rediscover the creative pulse within and around us.
I'm Chris.
I'm Cameron, and we'd like to invite you to listen in and continue the conversation. Walk with us as we keep learning what it means to be alive, awake, and connected. Of me seeing Seth's beautiful face, just a little bit of his beard.
Let's begin. Week 11.
Week 11.
Week 11.
Week 11.
Or is it strong 11?
The penultimate
Yeah.
rumble.
Yeah, you like that word.
Sorry, this isn't going to work.
I always like that word.
I never
Anytime
realized.
I get it, it's a life goal that anytime I have a chance to say penultimate, I do.
Didn't know that.
The penultimate
First time I've heard you say it.
jump.
Really? Now that you've noticed,
Yeah.
what is the effect?
Oh.
Guys.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Schoppenheimer
The Dornheimer effect, or
the
whatever.
boomer, the Doomkopf effect.
That's the one. That's it. You got it.
So the very first line from this chapter reminded me of what we were trying to talk about with Adam last week.
Yeah.
When I was
Yes.
saying, you know what I'm talking about?
I know that when we were in the office, when I was reading it, I think I spoke up and said to you, I feel like this is a response to exactly
Yeah.
our conversation last night.
It is precisely. I'll read the line. Artists are people whose real job, no matter what their paying job, is the pursuit of excellence by listening carefully and well to what is trying to be born through them. And that's what I was trying to talk about when it's like trying to make good shit, like in your craft, or just like trying to generate anything that's got a spark and wanting feedback for it, even if you're not like, you know, because I think Adam, you said something about like some stuff you make just for yourself and you don't really need any feedback from anybody on that, and that's totally legit. But this is the alternative scenario that I was thinking of in that case, like all the other stuff. We're trying to listen carefully and pursue with excellence the thing that's trying to be born through us.
The whole question about does it matter if it's good, too. You were speaking to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does matter if it's good.
Yeah.
At whatever level you're trying to do, like, and the definition of good
Yeah.
can be somewhat fluid and flexible.
Yeah.
But sparking.
Yep, sparking. And then right next to that, I'm going to give you the 3 things that stuck out to me, and then we can talk about whatever else. 'Cause I said this to you and Cameron once in the office when we were just talking about how Nathan and I always like refuse to get paid. We suck at getting paid for some reason. And a large thing that goes as substitute for payment for us is the satisfaction of a quality job, of a good job,
Yeah.
of an excellent result, and the ability to explore and innovate and whatever quality means to us. And she says that exact sort of thing. It's just like, I'm happy. A lot of times the payment isn't the payment. And I totally resonate with that. It's like, for good or worse, I don't think they're, for at least what we do, not at odds with each other necessarily. If I was more skilled, but at like getting paid. But it is true that the main payment is doing something very well. And I will refuse other alternate forms of payment if that thing is on the line.
Yeah.
Right.
The thing that matters most to us in our whole history
It's the quality.
is the quality of what we're delivering and delivering something that we are proud of, that we like.
Absolutely. And I think that section, I think it's the second section I just read, it's just like
The integrity.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's talking about how we have too many judgers and like we're not focused on the quality anymore. It's like dumbed down and it's taken back. She says,
The critics are out of hand.
right, that we have a culture of poor respect for art and stuff.
And artists, yeah.
Yeah, and she said someone was like nervous and asked her about, because she teaches artists how to do all this stuff and to make art. And they're like, aren't you worried that they're going to release bad art or not so great art?
You're going
She
to
said-
flood the world with bad art.
Right. She's like, more often, like way more often do you see beautiful art come out than a bad art. So
yeah.
it's just like
Especially
letting
from
it
those
flow.
who are hesitating and holding it back right now
Right.
for fear of.
And and the scope is too narrow for those critics.
Yeah.
The scope is actually much wider, and they don't speak for the populace. That actually does catch
Yeah.
the spark.
Yeah,
That's what I
absolutely.
was going to tie back.
They're like a
into.
weird gatekeeper that represents some niche that's not everyone, and it makes them feel like their authority. They have the authority to say like that's not good or not, but it's not true. The other thing is that not only will people produce good stuff, the third point that really jumped out to me was she said, sometimes we write poorly because we no longer write like we used to, and we do not yet write like we will. She's talking about writers,
Yeah.
but I think that is a metaphor that's for pretty much anything that we try to do.
Yeah.
You can, once you get past doing the status quo thing that everybody does, like the boring, you learned the rules and you try to do them as like a template. Once you break through that to transcend that, but you haven't yet developed the thing that comes next that's actually properly transcendent, there's a middle ground where it looks like regression.
Yeah.
And it's hard to recognize that as an actual progress.
Yeah.
If you quit there and lose heart, like she talks about, then you won't get to the part where you actually make something that's properly transcendent. I mean, that really resonates with me.
It's true. I like that.
You pass it back over.
Yeah, I think what you were just saying about the critic, this sort of idea that, well, aren't you afraid that the world is going to be flooded with bad art? Basically, it's revealing that person doesn't understand art. I mean, the whole thing is like, more bad art will be made and more good art will be made, and it's like more voices will be found and more. I mean, that's the whole. I guess, and I think that she would maybe make the case that an artist is someone who doesn't only make showpieces, but encompasses the whole sort of progression or the dynamism of that growth trajectory that is like on a journey that is connected to like themselves, their voice. What's the Greek phrase? Know thyself.
Yeah.
It's a person on that journey, really. And so you're going to get snapshots all along the journey. And even the best piece of art, quote, an artist's like masterpiece, isn't necessarily or very often more interesting than some of their lesser skilled pieces. Like almost in context, the progression and the character and the growth makes it more interesting. I mean, Picasso from an objective standpoint, determine that there's different tiers, I guess, of his work, but it has nothing to do with how it's going to hit someone or what it's going to spark or any of these things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the quote that I was talking about, as an artist who teaches, I have far often been humbled by a superior quality of someone's unblocked work than shamed by the quality of a newly unblocked work.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think humility is a big part of it.
Yeah.
It's like, instead of judging it, coming to it with like a critical mind, coming to it with a curious mind.
I think it almost, the whole idea about a machine produces exactly what it's built to produce. And so we see the output of a system or a machine, and we think it's not working right. But another way to see it is that it is working perfectly to produce what it produces. And so if we don't want to produce that anymore, we have to build a new system or a new machine or something. I think this is along the lines of that, because it's like, I hear implied in what she's saying that those people who are holding back are some of the people we really need to hear from.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because you almost train the careless person who's half in it, who's just like, this is what the market wants, and I'll just whip out half-hearted stuff. Because anyone who truly loves what they're doing is going to set it out as a feast for critics to like bash it in the head.
Yeah.
You encourage all those people to actually hold all the parts that you love most closer, and just give your seconds or your thirds, or be a person who doesn't like love what you're doing to produce a thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Or what I'm trying to say? It's almost like you're actually building the machine to get lower quality art. Because you're telling everyone, don't put what you love out here, because we're gonna stomp the hell out of it, and we're gonna rip you to shreds.
And I think that applies not only to what we might conventionally think of as art, like a creative expression, like through writing or painting or something, but like basically any endeavor where there is a creative process, which is I think most probably. things. I say this because are you guys, any of you familiar with Rory Sutherland? I think his name's Sutherland.
Mm-mm.
I see him on YouTube a lot. He's basically like, my impression of him, I probably have on net seen 2 hours of his talking. He's like retirement age now, so he's doing like a lot of podcasts, and he's on the internet a lot talking with people in interviews. He's a very interesting guy. He's from the UK, I believe, and he's been in marketing, consulting for like, I don't know, like 50 years. Like he's consulted with like everybody that you've heard of, like all the giant multi-billion-dollar like hotel chains and Amazon and lots of small companies and stuff. But it's interesting because I generally hate marketing people, but this guy's really refreshing because he's really human and he really respects humanness, and he's got a lot of information about like psychology and like human behaviors, and basically just has a genuine respect for human nature and understands humans, and so he's always consulting with people on how to market in a way that's like respectful to them and actually engages them. But anyway, all that to say, one thing he pointed out today, which is not related to any of the marketing stuff, is that some systems disincentivize creativity because you take a lot more guff for trying something new and failing than being boring.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's just generally true, I think, in every
Do something
thing.
familiar.
If you do something boring, it's boring, but you're not going to get a lot of heat for it.
It's familiar. We've seen it. It's what
Boring.
we expect.
Yeah, maybe someone's disappointed, but you're not going to get a lot of heat for it. Versus if you try something just genuinely interesting and it fails, then people are going to call you a fucking idiot and you know, whatever. You know, if you
He's
failure.
crazy. He's out there.
Bad.
Yeah.
So
I think, I mean, what a bummer, because I think she ends up saying in this chapter something that we've been saying since beginning, that whether we're all artists by vocation or career, that part of what seems important about this book and what the things she's presenting are that it's good for humans. It's a human way to be in the world. It's our birthright, I think she said several times. And what if, or she at least asked the question, I don't think she even states it, she asked, what if it's our birthright? What if we took it as our birthright to create art? And I just think, again, we were just talking about Chief of War, but just a lens into other cultural perspectives again, where, I mean, have there been societies where everyone was considered an artist on some level and what they did art? Or what have been societies that are most like that?
Yeah, she mentions like the Renaissance, basically. It's like that's a time when religion was directly tied to like success and like art. Art was directly tied to religion, and art was directly tied to success. Because of all the artists were the inventors, the creators, the innovators of the day that pushed forward society and pushed forward messages and everything. They were just like the influencers. So they like that's the time that she references, and I think there's some sort of beauty. What I was talking about earlier was the native religions and how they come to a process or come to an understanding in an interaction with their deity that's wholesome. It's like the most natural form without a lot of interaction with other people. So they're in their own small group, and they've all had a collective experience or some understanding of the world where they see God moving and interacting with them. And then they have their own interactions with them that includes art in some way. And I think like Native Americans have tapestries and some cave drawings in some areas, and then in other parts of the world, I mean, my Wheaton classes on archaeology and antiquities is like there's so many different images made of deities that represent life. Even the Greek, like coming back to the Greeks and how they had so many gods, but the title that they had over the temples was Know Thyself. So it's cyclical, knowing the God, knowing nature and the universe, and knowing yourself. It's like cyclical. And putting that forward into the world is God expressing himself, herself in us, and us reflecting it back and back and back. And so it can become an infinity mirror, but more like a kaleidoscope to see a pattern. and the
Kaleidoscopic infinity.
potential. And
I like your energy today, Cameron.
just roll with it. So yeah, I think I enjoy that perspective that she's offering. Like, did you follow your dream today? That's a quote I really like. Hers. It's like, are you doing your art? Are you doing the thing you want to do? Did you follow your dream?
Yeah.
Yeah. She asked, I think there's one part where she sort of admonishes us to trust our, I don't know, she didn't say intuition, but it's kind of like the trust your gut. She talks about the passage where she like knew something was right and some critical voice said it wasn't, and she was fine. It was fine. And then she knew something was wrong. And even though her 3 editors said it was great and blah, 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 she just knew it was wrong. And she was right, it was wrong.
Yeah.
And she's like, if you learn to trust that and you live in that, then yeah, you can just be true to yourself. Like, you'll know if it's good and you'll know if it's bad and it needs work. And I think that's true. It's interesting because I think a lot of what she says could be construed in some way where I'm like, that's erroneous. Like, there's lots of problems with that.
Sure.
And it's hard. Like, it's almost like when she's saying it, I get it. I'm tracking. I'm like, that's completely true. I think that's really, really, really true. Now that I've said it out loud right now, I'm like, well, there are a lot of times when that's not true. You really need somebody else to be like a sounding board for you because things are complicated.
You need that too, yeah.
How does it sound to somebody else? Because you're not just doing it for yourself, unless you are. But if you're not, then, sometimes you want to know.
Context.
Yeah, like feedback's good. But
And you also need to know thyself.
yeah,
And that takes time.
Yeah.
And it takes intention to actually get to know yourself. Not just live your life, but actually
Yeah.
get to know yourself.
yeah. Maybe that's something that you really have to take time to build. But once you do, it's almost like the most valuable thing you can have.
Yeah.
And listen to yourself, because that's
Yeah.
what she's talking about. That critic, not the critic. What did you say the other people are? Sounding board.
Yeah.
Your inner sounding board, and be like, okay. She said it was like a beep going off, and it's gonna keep going until you hear it and listen to it and then address it, like a fire alarm. Like, okay, until you go press it or figure out where it is and what it's doing and why, it's gonna keep going.
Yeah,
And
that's
so-
right.
And she found it, and then she had to rewrite the whole thing.
Yep.
She said.
You said the word wholesome, and it reminds me of how many times she was saying that whole section was integrity, and she was referencing integral as the sort of root of that word.
Integer. I think it was
Yes,
integer.
integer and integral, both, I think. And then talking about the concept there is wholeness.
Right.
It's
Yeah, right.
and I think that's true. This concept of being a whole person, of doing your art from a wholeness instead of a divided self. She talked also about like a wholehearted person. In last chapter, I think she talked about horseback riders talking about throwing their heart over the fence
Uh-huh.
and then going after it, or following it over the fence, and that's kind of what we're asked to do. And I'm circling back to this idea and thinking about, as you guys are saying, about what would a society be if we had some percentage of, obviously there's something to be gained with becoming a specialist and distilling things, but I mean, even I'm thinking of even physicists and people who have high amount of data, and the really exceptional ones are the ones who have heart, who love what they do, who are artful in what they do. What if our police force thought, how am I how am I an artist? What is the art in my police work? And construction, what is, how am I how could I be a wholehearted contractor, or, computer science,
Yeah.
whatever the field is, like, how can I bring artistry to this field? What if you went on night shift, Adam, and you were thinking, how and where will I have an opportunity to act as an artist on this shift? And I don't know. I think if our president paused to think about being an artist,
I think it's a
be cool.
perspective. Yeah, I think it is cool. I think it's a perspective shift, and it's like not that. I think there's multiple ways to be in that vein. So like, if you're thinking about construction as the big picture, maybe seeing the whole house, but like, how can you bring out the creative side or the artist perspective, your artist perspective? Like, for me, it'd be like, how do I create each room? What do I want in each room? what features do I want?
Listening.
Features.
The
Yeah.
listening component with excellence.
Where
To
am
what
I?
wants to be built,
where
what
am I
wants
building?
to come forward.
Yeah. If I think about the place I want to build at my grandpa's house, I am like, okay, where do I want to put it? I want to put it in the side of a hill. I want it to be a view of the pond, overlooking the pond with the monument in the background. I want it to be an earth ship, so it's like built into the earth, but also a little bit like a window to the outside. And inside, I want it to be these things. And then there's technical things that I need to think about logically. Like, what do I want? Do I want amenities like water and sewage, and like how does that work? And then electricity, how does that work? And there's technical ways to think about it and take it apart piece by piece and do it. But then the artistic side is to also think, how does that look? This is like a different project than I've ever seen before in this
Yeah.
area.
Just to ask
It's
questions like,
inspiring. Like,
what would be cool?
yeah,
Instead of this is how we do it.
exactly.
I think it's easy. I love what you're saying, and I think it's really true. I think that everyone should be more imaginative as possible. It's harder to imagine
Being imaginative.
being imaginative in a situation where you have far less latitude than that. And I think the task for most people, I think there are jobs that are like, you have no autonomy, you have no latitude for expression. There are jobs that exist like that, and they are kind of dehumanizing for that reason. I think we kind of identify them as such. But there are some like middle grounds, and I think part of the ones, I think it's hard to imagine a creative expression in that job that doesn't sound trite and fabricated from outside. But somebody who's in that job, it's their daily task to find that expression. And it's amazing because I don't think we could sit here and conjecture at what it might be.
Yeah.
They might say like, oh, because I don't know. I'd love to hear from Seth on this one, particularly for like, you're doing construction, you're doing none of the things that he just said, right? Right. I mean, you have some autonomy, you have obviously some expression, but you don't have like project level, like creative, like authority, right? I mean, you have instructions, something you're supposed to do, right? So is there a way in which you feel there is latitude for creative expression, or is that sort of an alien idea?
I don't think so. At least not that I have felt. Part of that is because it's more to me like a job, a way to make money, I guess, and not as like a thing that I'm passionate about. So I don't feel like I see that as much. But I do think that I see a little bit of that as, I don't know. I think as close as I can get is probably just like the way I do the job, and the way that like as a team that we like work together and do the thing.
Yeah,
The people.
It's like
the way you do it.
expressive of that, rather than like, because I've worked with like different crews and stuff, and I feel like we have a really good crew at this point because like we do mesh together well, and like we can take criticism and we can do all those things. But like, I don't know. Broadly answer your question, I feel like that's more where I see that as just like the doing of it rather than the way we, or the thing we do.
I have
because
to
it is so limited in that.
Sorry.
scope, but good.
Yeah, I have to think that the doing does affect the outcome, but the doing is an important thing. I guess what I was thinking is like the first thing that comes to my mind is when I've seen some people online who do it, like I told you about the drywall guy. He's got an interesting thing. He's excited about hanging drywall.
Yeah.
His result probably is excellent. It's probably not like you got to tell everybody you know about it. But there is something about those craft people who are, you'd almost say to them, they're like Da Vinci with a hammer. You could tell that they loved learning the trade inside and out. Like they've got tricks for all the framing. They can do it really fast. They can do it really well. They've got like they've optimized all the process. And that was sort of like them getting their teeth into it and really just like getting involved on a creative level. The outcome maybe is just a properly straight, well-dimensioned stud wall. But there's something about that like creative expression of them figuring out how to do that and being good at doing that. And not just that one, but it's the expression of that skill and that interest over the course of many projects. That seems like that's a close to home for a creative expression.
Yeah.
It's not like what you'd consider art necessarily, but I've seen some people making stuff and I'm like, that guy is an artist with the hammer.
Yeah.
The way that he did that shit was like, there's nothing really other to say than like that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember? Well, I think our first Thanksgiving in the Rosebud here in this building when we were here, and everyone else was gone, but across the alley at the house next door was that roofing crew,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and they did it all, the entire roof in a day, less than a day in the winter. I think they started at like 9 or 10 in the morning. And they finished in time. Yeah, they finished at 3 or 4. They did everything, and we're just like, whoa. We just every like couple hours we check back and be like, they did all that, and they're just kind of they were working very synergistically. It was like we're singing, we're like laughing, talking to each other, knew what they were doing. It looked fantastic, and then they finished up, and just the spirit that they had with them. Then they were like, we were playing volleyball outside, and they were like, can we join? And they spoke almost no English, but one guy was like bold enough to, and that was super fun.
Yeah.
And they just came and played volleyball with us for until it got dark. And that, I think, captures that spirit.
Yeah.
Something like that. I was going to say earlier, though, I was thinking that if we wanted to do something societally or systemically, I think we have to really, if we wanted to affect the greater effect we could change would be dependent on the leadership on any system. If a leadership values and makes space for creativity versus do this, get it done. I want to control how you do it. I want to control those things. I mean, it very much changes the atmosphere, what's available in the room to breathe, and just what your bandwidth is, and all the sort of thing, the whole temperament of everything that comes out of that.
I think there's a certain level, like what you were saying, Brett, where within a field or a study, I guess, that there are artists, no matter what field it is. It's those that we were talking about last week, the thinkers, the highest degree in that field. That could be painting, that could be construction, that could be in religion, it could be in philosophy, whatever it is. That there is some level to which it is religious for them, and that is absolutely true. I saw it in academia, for sure, and it's a certain religiousness, but with a fervor for learning and understanding, and then also expression. So it's taking that and then putting it out. Obviously, that's what we're talking about in the world of the art, thinking about how to make new airplanes is what I was thinking of, and to make new songs and art, to create, even it could be create methods, techniques
Absolutely for
creating a better web system or creating a stud wall, like you were saying. That there's a high level of understanding, wisdom, and ingenuity that goes into that all the time. And I think, like we said, any field can do that.
What are the ingredients, would you guys say, that are like prerequisites for that kind of because you were saying it comes sometimes leadership can, if you say like do this way, you're basically you're giving them the script. There's like very little latitude for someone to gain that or express that or whatever. And it seems to me there's some level of like autonomy a person needs. They need some sort of like genuine interest. Like, what would you say are the key ingredients that are adequate for a person to be exceptional in that way at any given thing?
I think.
Go ahead.
Go for it, Adam.
I was just gonna say the first thing that comes to mind for me is like, well, one, the thing that they operate in, the field, the system, whatever, has to have. It can't have such rigid parameters that it's impossible to like be creative and express and be great. So like there are some by design systems that are so rigid that you can't be an individual in it, and I think that's kind of what you're referencing, Brett, is like those are just the things that strip people's humanity essentially, that they are due for whatever reasons. But so first off, it can't exist in that, but even if it does exist in a very structured environment like construction or police work or whatever, like that is very structured, but there still is a little wiggle room. And I think the first thing is you have to be a master of the structure Like you have to know what the rules are, so you know how you can operate within them, and also express
Confidence that it gives you.
yourself. Also comes back to that mentioning of know yourself, so you can express it within that system that you've mastered and know so well that you can express it. And then for me, I don't know, this like it's also like how does it best benefit the other people within that system? So like it, like I think of your example, Cam, of like building this landship thing, and if Seth took that and somebody was like, I want you to redo my kitchen, he's like, I think it would be cooler if I made this a grassy knoll. And they're like, no, that's not what I asked. Like, and he's like, but this is my creative stuff. So you also have to take into consideration the people, and so what best benefits them, and then so is the meshing of those. But I think it does start with the mastery of the system
that's a good
you're
point.
in.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think there's a point when either you're master of the system or the system doesn't allow you to grow where you go outside it. And then there has to be enough interest to continue the work.
Yeah, the interest has to be there.
Yeah.
I feel like almost to get to that point at anything,
Yeah.
you have to have something that could get you there. You know what I mean? Like I think most of us have the raw cognitive ability to be really good at like tons of things, but we're never going to because we cannot care about that thing enough
Sure.
to do
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
And so there's something there that's like it's fuel. You got some sort of like
Some
rocket fuel in you for that
Passion or
thing.
love for the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think Adam's point about it has to be it has to be a utility, useful for someone else. And enough to the point where it satisfies you also. I think because it may not be your total creative expression, but if it's without parameters or boundaries, our creative self it's somewhat harder to manage sometimes. And you're like, I don't know what to do because I just have so many things. And if I have like two boundaries here, it's so much easier to just go for the idea or within some creative latitude that you already have thought of. And then once you hit that mark, then you can kind of shoot off to the side personally or in other projects.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I reference from my engineering days, is like building like scaffolding upon other people's ideas, but then also like a web so you can like shoot off to the other side. And it might not be useful. This idea might not be useful for right now, but it'll get someone else thinking about the idea that will be useful. And so it just keeps the creative juices flowing. So it's not stagnant. It's always kind of moving on towards something.
Yeah.
It's the potential coming into some particular thing. So there has to be some funnel into the idea, into the artist's
The incarnation.
the piece.
Yeah.
And we're back to the Trinity.
It goes both directions, right? So what you're doing is you're discovering. So like what you're saying before about the competency to learn the rules, so that you can break the rules is kind of the fundamental thing I'm thinking of. Is that you learn the particular enough that you suss out the pattern, and then once you detect the pattern, you can transcend the particular rules because the pattern does apply many other places, cross-disciplinary, and in new ways that nobody's thought of before. I don't think it's necessary for you to care about other people or to be really good at like a good person. I'm just thinking about like some of the hackers that like super famous hackers. They're absolute wizards with like code and infrastructure. Like the stuff that they come up with is genius. It is so artful. It's kind of bad. It's unempathetic. I would say it's like misguided. But they had like some of those other prerequisites. They like knew how stuff worked inside and out to the point where it's almost like I just think about like in the Matrix when Neo at the end of the very first one can't like stop the bullets. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a whole time where like the Matrix is happening, you're in there, you don't have any control of it. Is this a wait, hold on. Matrix, yes?
I have not seen
Oh
it.
my God,
But
okay,
I know what it
Matrix,
is.
okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Adam?
It's the one movie that I like. That
Okay.
was before I was
That's
born.
before you're born. Okay. Okay, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, right, where he like gets to the point where he's like, oh, I can manipulate the system. I'm not just completely at its own. Like he gets to the point where he, like that's why I said transcends it earlier. It's like that's exactly right. You get to the point where it's not you live within its reality and then beyond it. You like can go around it. You can go like through it. Like you can bend the spoon, like kind of a thing. I mean, that's like a real metaphor for what can happen when you like can transcend the system, but you go through it, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that anyway, so that's what you're kind of describing. That's very. I'm talking about that because it's exciting to me. I was always like jazzed by the idea of Neo, like stopping in time, whatever. But then what you'll do with that, whether it's good or not, is I think it's kind of a different matter.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I have two things. I like that you're talking about the transcendence. It makes me think of the metaphor we talked about in our other conversation, where it's a 3D object interacting with a 2D object. So, like, if you're thinking a circle on the paper and then you see a ball, a sphere roll over, you're like, that just went right through me. How the heck did that happen? No, actually, I just went over you, but you can't see that dimension. That's one thing I think is cool. It's like getting outside lines. And then for like the hackers that do unethical things, they're so high level and they are interacting to some point where it satisfies them, but also someone else, because maybe they're not getting the information for themselves, or they're selling it, or somebody wants what they're doing, if it's them or someone else. I think it's not just totally for pleasure. There has to be some utility.
Well, there's definitely utility to them. I would think of traditional art as some means to share meaning with other people. I think we generally, it's some sort of communication, generally. Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but I kind of have that feeling, like traditionally art, not not artfulness, but like art. Yeah. You painted a painting, you never showed it to anybody. I just have this feeling that many people in art would be like, it's kind of art, but like until you've shared it with someone, it's not really art. I guess that's kind of the thing I'm thinking. These people are not trying to help or communicate. Well, maybe they are trying to communicate.
Well, I think they're I was going to say two things, I guess. One was, I think in the language of Julia, maybe this chapter, we could say that you have to love something. And they clearly love something.
Yeah. Totally.
It's not clear to us, it's not apparent to us what it is they're loving. And I think maybe when we're talking about people, we're revealing our values more than other things. So like Adam is saying, it is important that how it, conveys and what it purveys to other people. It's because you love people and you care about people. And Seth, the same thing, that your team works well together is your way of being creative because you care about people, maybe more than you care about building a stud wall. And so those are there. But also, hackers are communicating to their tribe. Yeah. And there's a message there. It's a different audience. Yeah. They maybe are not as concerned with, but that's often the case, I think. Especially when we don't value certain forms of art, that they find niche communities. And part of the identity of that community can be that we're rejected by all the rest.
100%.
So,
yeah, that's a good point.
It's very common in evangelical how much persecution. I would go from church to church in this area and hear about how even the other churches in the area, no one's like us, and this kind of stuff. It's like everyone's identity is being uniquely persecuted, and is that uncommonly an American thing? Maybe our roots where a lot of our first roots came from.
I think
they were. I don't know, but it seems funny to me.
From pushing back, I think I think that's what you're saying. I think that's probably a little bit true. It's overcoming something to push outside. I think that's probably why we like the idea of art so much too. It's like pushing the boundaries. It's making some people uncomfortable. You said the other day that you were talking about a game creator who said, if you're making a game for everyone, you're making a game for no one. So there's always a market or a niche or a specific audience to be tailored to.
And sometimes that transcends everything.
Like sometimes it goes
K-pop Demon Hunter. Here we are.
It surprisingly
it
does
wasn't
bridge
really made
many,
for the masses, and the masses are loving it and eating it up.
Yeah,
that's true.
And it's really cool that happens.
It's kind of magical.
I was thinking about how Dax Shepard on Armchair he was an anthropology major at UCLA, and he's like always about how it's always about fitting into the community, to be in the tribe, to not be left out. It's important to be part of a group for survival. Yeah. And I think that's true. Yeah. And it's always, art is an expression of that, and trying a way to do that. And since it does fit in a lot of different categories, it's always that unique expression. There's the funny one. There's I don't know, if you think of like a little gang of people or a friend group, you could sometimes label them stereotypically as like the funny one, the smart one, the tall one, the
Sure.
whatever.
At least as a trope, we get it. It's enough true that we.
Right.
No
and so
way.
there's always forms of ourselves and maybe art that's okay, this is my thing. That
Immediately like a sighting.
Oh,
The dumb one, the hairy one.
that I think always as we try to find ourselves and express ourselves through art and understand the universe and creativity through that, we are trying to find how that fits in the group, because we are molded and constrained by some of those boundaries, that we grew up with, and art's teaching us to move around them, to push past them, but also lifeology, I think, necessitates that to thrive, we also have to fit in those at some point. We have to work in and work out of them. So that to me thinks about the utility to other people. It sometimes is useful to someone else, and it sometimes isn't. And that's where I think art can transcend. Like K-pop Demon Hunters, it's so for everybody. It is. And then it's so, like, I don't know. I kind of lost where I was going, but I think it is helpful to go in and out.
Yeah.
yeah. There's definitely like a readiness, like a lining of stars that happens sometimes where a thing crosses, like lightning strikes and that thing crosses all these different like almost like sects of culture. It's interesting. I want to go back for a second to what you were talking about. Have there been societies that were like all artists or always had artists? And I think it's, first of all, I don't know anything about like human history or whatever, so it'd be really interesting to hear like historical anthropologists talk about like cultures that had like an artist, because I know they always had like shamans and artists, and have always been important. Like like cave art is like one of the oldest things that humans ever made. And it's like way old, like as old as you can get.
And stories and.
So it's obvious that stuff, that the thing that is encoded through, I don't know if it's art like we'd think of it now or not, but creativity and artistry and narrative and like the sharing of whatever that could be distilled down to, like paint, not talking about painting, like whatever that is, when you're exploring the unknown space of like, by discovering it through some abstract thing, and you sort of exchange an idea in abstract terms with someone else and they encounter something similar, and it like there's this thing that happens, like that's obviously, even though it's so abstract, always been important for humans and terribly practical. Like it's so important. Like I don't think we could possibly succeed as a species without that. I remember Hank Green talking recently about like ants, and he said that like when they find food, they leave like a pheromone trail, and then other ants follow the pheromone trail and also leave the pheromone trail, and the pheromone trails that go someplace good get stronger and stronger, and that's how they work, and they work really well. But that's not all that happens.
That sounds like a neural connection in the brain too. Also,
yeah, definitely, it's definitely got the same like motif with that. But he said that some percentage of ants are what you might think are dysfunctional and don't properly do that. It's like 5% or something like that, and they just like don't do that. They just like wander around like aimlessly, apparently aimlessly. And he said it appears that this is a dysfunction, but this is built in. It's always some percentage, and it's important that it's not over a certain percentage. But it's important that there is a percentage. Without this contingent group that's doing that random discovery, the entire species goes extinct.
Right.
Because something happens where the tried and true method no longer works, and you never discover any novel paths to anything, new things in your environment that you need to know about, new sources of food, because you always are trotting the old path. And you need a percentage of that. And I think that's obvious in ants, probably relatively unchanged for bazillion years, In humans, we would need that. Even if you went all the way back, because I was thinking, we kind of think in now terms of artists as like, almost you could be tempted to think of it as like a luxury of a time of abundance where you don't have to be spending your whole life trying to like raise enough food to feed yourself. So you have time to like make art or something like that. It's really tempting and reasonable to think that, I guess, at first blush, but also like that's not true. We've always needed that. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have gotten here. We could not
That's
possibly
absolutely
have gotten here.
Yeah.
We are discovering something so very important, and we don't know what that thing is. And I think maybe some percentage of our discovery process doesn't lead to something particularly meaningful. But if we didn't do it, we wouldn't discover K-pop Demon Hunters or whatever. It doesn't really matter what the thing is.
Right.
Unless we spent some percentage of our life, our consciousness, our energy being the wandering ant, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, I think that's like a certain percentage of people, and like
Yeah.
the different revolutions that we have, like the Renaissance, like the Industrial Revolution, like those things that push us forward.
Right. You were saying something before that when I started reacting, I didn't mean to throw you off, but I was just thinking, you were saying that sometimes it's for some people and some, what were you saying?
Discovering ourselves.
It isn't for others. Or it's
Oh
not,
yeah.
it's not
Sometimes you
useful.
have to like fit in. Like if you're trying to be a part of a group, you have to fit inside the bounds of that group and be like what that group is. Like that group
Yeah.
is something.
Right.
And if you want to be part of the group, you have to be in there.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like to be yourself, you have to go outside that
Okay.
too. But that also benefits the group. Like Brett
Yeah,
was just saying.
it does, and that's actually the point I was trying to get to, but that's not the thing I was responding to. You were saying something along the lines of sometimes art is for some people, it's not for others. You had said something neat, or it's not that useful for others or something. I was just thinking that's also almost never apparent on any real level of what is useful to you and not to me, or what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The things that don't look apparent or useful to you, like the concept, as Doug Bolden would say, nothing is wasted. It comes back, and you don't know, and you didn't know, and they don't know, and I don't even know where I heard it. And even the apophatic, cataphatic, the idea that like I think I don't want anything, I'm reacting against something, is also a reaction that's informing and
Yeah.
like building me, and all
Yeah.
those kinds of
Yep.
things are true.
It's the different. When I think about that in a practical sense, I guess you're intaking something by excluding something, right?
Yeah,
So you're
which-
saying so like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Which shifts everything.
It does.
for you.
Yeah.
So it's like everything
it's never not
something.
doing something.
Yeah.
We're always interacting with our circumstances and scenarios and art and
But that percentage you said about the population is probably true, and even on, you said in our individual lives,
Yeah.
the percentage, and even in my example of the police force, like it's going to be different than someone who's writing a book.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not appropriate because it would be chaotic if there were 97% artists on the force and acting 97% of the time, or if 90% of Adam's shift he was trying to like be creative and do an out of the box thing, would not be super helpful. But it might be 3% that's appropriate
Yeah.
on a shift, or on a job site, or if for a youth that might be we're just going to have a different conversation or a different communication style. And I mean, there's a balance to
Yeah.
those things,
Yeah.
I also,
which is probably changing all the time. What were you saying, Adam?
the thought that I have too with that is like, I don't know exactly how I can make this like an example, but just like practically, I feel like those wandering ant types in a group inspire the pheromone followers to just maybe move a little, like, and try something else. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like what Cam's saying, where like, if to be in this group, you have to be within the bounds, or else you're just actually not in the group. But to jump in and out, like, or in or whatever, like you're bringing something from the outside, which that group can benefit from, and then maybe it gets a little bigger. Like,
Yeah.
So, I guess all that to say is just like it's not just you doing this thing and you are not impacting others. Like everything impacts everyone else. Like we're humans and we absorb from others and are influenced by others. So you being that person in that environment can inspire like the other ones who are maybe a little bit more rigid.
Yeah.
sure, you might be the ant that follows a little bit of the explorer ant, but only gets like a tenth of the way and then finds the food off that track instead. And then you have affected some positive change or
Yeah.
sustenance for
Yeah.
that group
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the time.
It's not always clear if it's positive too. I just want to reinforce. It's like, so like some percentage of the oddball ants fall to their death,
Die
or
and
get eaten by some predator or like whatever. It's probably the most. I think it's probably most of them. Most of them don't find something,
Sure.
but the one that does find something saves everybody. It's like it's like a sacrifice you have to make. Have to make it.
And it has to be a big enough percentage so that they can survive.
You need to find that one thing that's going to save.
If we could culturally come to the place where we value that enough to recognize that if it doesn't work 99 times, but one time it saves us all, that it's worth it.
Yeah.
We would hold space for it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a certain percentage of people who are that ant. It's almost like what she's talking about as what we'd consider like traditional artists. To like,
Yeah.
It's so much in my DNA to not just like find a way to be creative in my normal job, but I'm actually going to be like an artist. I'm a fucking wandering ant. It's like, that's in me. I'm going to do that. It's like, well, God bless you, wandering ant.
I think.
I hope you find something great.
I think that's innately programmed in some people. Like I was thinking about in other fields, it happens in every field. Like you have those wandering ants, right? And they lead to expressions. It's like the people who are super geniuses at 13. Like they just have something else in them that's programmed that way, and that's great, and that's gonna do something for us. We don't know what or when, but I guess there needs to be a respect for those people, and like not and an ushering of them into their role, a support for that. And I think that's what she's kind of talking about with those critics. Like we have too many critics, and they're not seeing the effect, the benefit, the savior, or the idea that they might bring to save the group or to benefit the group.
So you're saying we shouldn't crucify them?
Yeah, but like I said, like bring a curiosity.
But maybe the crucifix is the point
The art.
through which
where it is the art, the point at which
we
where
must
everyone
travel.
sees something. It doesn't matter. It doesn't know what it sees. Like salvation could be what we need, but also it could be a total offshoot for someone else. I'm thinking for many people, the cross is like a definition of hope and healing and moving forward and safety.
Yeah.
And for others, it's like death, like
It was
the
like
crusade.
torture.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And so it always can be misconstrued, but bringing a curiosity, a non-judgmental stance to some of those things to see what happens, and then also, I don't know, use discernment a little bit and say, how does this help me? And not be so, I guess, be selfish in our own perspective, but not in our advancement of ideas towards others. I'm just thinking about the way I was talking about the other day, my grandparents and how they like food. Their tastes have changed. I'm going to give the pizza example. They don't like pizza sauce anymore. And they talk about pizza sauce like it's not good for anyone anymore. It's like they must have changed the recipe or something at Papa Murphy's and it's bad. Like, I don't like it anymore. And there's just a subtle hint of, yeah, it's just not good. It's not as good as it used to be. And you should recognize that it's not as good as it used to be. I'm like, what are you talking about? I still love their stuff. And so I just think that that's not a mindset that I want to put forward when I'm looking at someone else's art or their ideas.
There, you just said it. I get the feeling that you're doing an important thing in the last 5 minutes, both of you. You're describing the partner to the artist. The artist's eye. Oh, no, not the artist's eye. The eye for art. The person who's the art appreciator or the art. I hate appreciator because it seems superficial. The other person in the dialogue with the art, that's not the person who created it.
Right.
That's
The observer.
also absolutely essential for us to develop. I think she should write another book that's the artist. What is the other person in the relationship?
Connoisseur,
the art appreciator.
the
Observer, the viewer.
enthusiast.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like we need to
There's
be
lots
that.
of roles.
Ingester.
Too, yes.
Yeah, exactly. We need to be that. That's a crucial thing to develop in yourself
Yes.
and as a culture. To be
Yeah, it's
to
true.
be on the other side saying, what is this thing to be investigated, to be looked at closely, to be considered widely, to be asked, what are you saying?
Right.
Like, not just in literal art, but in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. How to be how to be an appreciator, an observer,
Supporter.
interactor.
Supporter,
Like you do interact with
Yeah,
art.
partner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So how do you take a step forward after that? Like
A patron.
there's one
Yeah.
aspect of looking at an image and the image looking back, and that's an experience. Then the step after that, and the after that, and after that. That's kind of like
Yeah.
difficult because you can have a moment that's
Mm.
spiritual and a connection and that's revelatory to myself. But if I just like, okay, that was a painting that I saw, and I go look away. Like I don't know. I don't think a real experience like that would just be so flippant, I guess, of
Yeah.
a reaction afterwards. But some might be, or if we don't pay enough attention to the circumstance, we can miss that or just blow it off, and then, in essence, sometimes in real life, blow off that person or blow off that
Yeah.
thing and be like,
Yep.
it's just that,
Yep.
what it is.
Thing they're doing.
There's just some geese over there, and they're poopy, gross, instead of like cool.
I think I resonate with that as far as like being an observer of art. I think of the way that I process things that I like, and I would say probably 75% of why I like something is because of who the person is and what they've lived and experienced and done, and 25% what the actual thing is. And because that, as just like a cheap example, like listening on the radio, there's a song that comes on, and I'm like, I don't know who sings this. If it's Ariana Grande, I don't like it, but if it's Sabrina Carpenter, then it's a pretty good song. I was like, I have that like actual thought process in my mind, but it's like,
Is that an actual example?
yeah,
I like that.
That's hilarious. I totally inverted there.
That's funny.
yeah. But I think it's like the way that we appreciate art has more to do with like how it reflects me and how I see you, and like how those things overlap, and like but also just who the person making it is, and like what they've experienced and done, and like what I'm trying to say, like I think that it doesn't matter that like I haven't experienced the same exact thing that other person has experienced, and that's why I'm like, oh, that's good, I connect with it because have had that. But it's like I know that person, and I know that they've experienced that thing, and in some way that resonates with like something else that I've experienced, and that's why it's meaningful to me, and I can connect with you in that. So,
Yeah.
you know.
That story element connection is compelling to you. I think that's something to like, as an observer, we're drawn towards those compelling things, that spark things.
The spark, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, it's just mysterious. It's sort of that exchange between the chaos and the mystery, and the ground and the abyss is like that mystery. The spark is the sort of in between things.
Yeah.
It's a connector. It's the gateway. It's the threshold. It's a liminal.
Yeah.
I think.
Adam, were
liminal
you-
point.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Adam, were you gonna say something?
Oh,
That
I was
heard
just
it.
gonna say that, like, the thing that comes to mind with what all you're saying, like in Brett, with if she does write a book that's the artist connoisseur or something. Like, for me, the thing that I've been, I guess, realizing with myself is like, I don't know if it's like a societal thing or what, but like, we want to critique things, I guess, and we want to assign good, bad, like, don't like, and then to assign that, it has to be the highest of highs or the lowest of lows. Like, it like is like, if it doesn't make me feel like this insane feeling, then it's like, whatever. But like, there's subtleties in things, and I've also, again, like what Seth was saying, art, it sometimes says more, or can. Art doesn't say anything, like, inherently. It is interpreted. But, like, I guess it can be interpreted in more about you than what it is. And so I think about, like, I've noticed that with myself with, like, you know, Hunter and I will go on a trip and we go to a museum or something, and I guess we're both similar in this, but, like, I speed run museums. I'm like, just, like, run around and then see. But, like, and I used to do that and then be like, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't, like, take anything in. Or I did enjoy this one thing, but everything else was crap. or whatever, and like had these different ideas of what it was. But I do that now, and I still don't slow down. I still do it at the pace that I want to do it at, because it's like, why force myself to do something I don't like? But I do it at that pace, and then I kind of figure out what it's saying about me, because like I realize where I'm slowing down and where I'm speeding up in the art galleries. And like I've noticed this last time I went to an art gallery, I was looking at these paintings, and my first thought was, these are very boring. But I'm like, no, I'm just assigning something to it, like it's bad or something. But I'm like, no, I think what I'm recognizing in this is structure and rigidity, and things that I don't like things that I've rebelled against, and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, and now that's making me think about me, and like, why do I rebel against? And then what is this person? How's their experience? Anyways, so a whole new experience.
Yeah.
This person made something, probably never thought that I would see it and interact in that way. And then I think about being the art producer. If I made something, whatever it was, and hung it on a wall, and somebody came and had some reaction that wasn't even about my art, it was about them, I would be so happy. Like, if they didn't even think about me, they didn't even read my name on the plaque, they didn't even know I wrote it, and they just thought it made them have a deeper thought about themselves, that would be like the greatest accomplishment of art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good art's like a cosmic mirror. Like what you see just depends on what your face is in front of it.
Yeah.
What you are looking at it with.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. Yes. I have two. I don't want to supersede anything that anyone's wanting to talk about. We haven't got to, but I have a follow up from last week, and then I have a question for all of you. A reflection.
I have to go at 9:15.
Okay. What time is it? I don't know.
9:10.
9:10. Okay, I'm gonna do my. I think we could do this. My follow up was, you had asked me something about the tada, and I was reflecting on that as I was reading this week, because I felt like I didn't say what the thing really was, but I was trying. I hadn't interrogated it myself enough to withstand the interrogation.
Sorry.
No, that's
give
good.
you the third
It
degree.
prompted me. It did what Adam said. Prompted me to think better, more differently about it. And I'm going to try again. This is my take two. It's not my final take, because I don't know that it's quite there yet either. But I think there was an element when I was doing my to-do list of gratitude we talked about. There is an element of like accomplishing something. There was some element about all of the different things that we said. But the thing that feels unique to me that I haven't experienced before was, I think, sitting just with this concept of satisfaction, sitting in satisfaction. That I've made gratitude. I've held gratitude. These are all good practices. But to end a day sitting inside of satisfaction it's like been like a sunset experience for me. It's like something is around me that I haven't been aware of before.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a little bit something? Okay, so my quick question is, you said, Cameron, when we were talking about this chapter a little bit, that I don't remember how you said it, but you feel more like an artist now than when we started, or you identify more as an artist, or something like that.
I call myself, in my day-to-day, honestly, maybe in
Thinking
my
of yourself.
vocation, or
Slight shift.
maybe I've always, that's kind of what I was thinking at the beginning. Vocationally, I feel like an artist, but I think practically and almost in my career, I feel like an artist.
Okay. So this is my question for you at chapter 11, before our final week here. Percentage change. As you're reading, at the beginning, we all started saying, but I'm not an artist, but I'm not an artist. She wrote this for artists, but I'm not really an artist. And she's writing for a different kind of people, blah, 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 blah. And I'm wondering, as we're reading now, percentage change, it can be negative percentage. It doesn't have to be positive percentage. But if you could give it a percentage right now, just off the top of your head, of how you, as you're reading, maybe think more like an artist, or more like this applies to me, or more like I feel like I don't have to discard that and sort of rewrite for me. I just wonder, what would your percentage change be in a perception of yourself as an artist?
Of ourself?
Yeah,
Not like our life or like our vocation, just ourselves.
both. Yes.
Okay.
You can. I'm not saying I didn't articulate
Okay.
the question perfectly, but
Yeah.
if you
I'm just clarifying.
approximate it in a way that works for you.
I'll go quickly. I think for myself, like 95%, still 95%. For
Okay.
my vocation, I think like 16% to 20%. But the way I pictured it is the 16% was so blurry before I couldn't really even see it, and now it's a very sharp 20%. I can see a very clear 20%. If that makes sense. Like I feel like a very clear connection to it and ability to articulate it to myself, and I feel it like moving with more authority in my day to day, like my way of perceiving of my way I carry out the vocation.
Great. Seth.
I don't think that I have a specific percentage, but I would say that it has probably only slightly gone up in the way that I see myself as an artist. But I think that I've taken probably 75% of this and applied it to my life in a way different from being an artist, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just like changed different areas of my life and how I live and make choices and deal with things and view myself.
Nice. Adam.
Yeah, I don't know what what percentage, but low percentage, 20s or below when before considering myself an artist, and then now I don't know. When I think about like my day-to-day life, I feel like 100% artist. I'm like everything I do is just like a projection of art and creating and stuff. But kind of like when I do think about work, it's a little bit lower because of some parameters and things that are set. But still, yeah, I would say a higher percentage than when we started. But still, would I say I am an artist to people? No. In the same way, I don't usually say I'm Christian, because then there's just a big bag of things, I think. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, vocationally, I'd always, I don't know, it was always a high percentage. I think career-wise, I was thinking like 40, I could apply, or I thought of myself as a 40 to 60% artist when I started reading, and now I feel like 80 to 90% artist in what I do daily.
Yeah. Similarly to you all, I'm not going to answer my own question exactly, but I think I would never have registered or conceptualized myself actively as an artist or said that in any conversation. I think I feel comfortable saying that now, if it's a conversation where there's some nuance and
with the right person.
Or if I don't care what they think and that's what I feel like identifying myself as. At that moment, I feel comfortable enough to do that.
You got your sassy head.
Yeah. So I think I went from 0 to 1 there. Not percentage, but like from it's not a concept that I was thinking about, to I fully could conceptualize myself as a full artist in multiple different domains. And if there's a percentage change, I don't know what that would be, but it's not probably that useful. But the question I thought might get us to what I wanted to hear from you. It's good. I think we have to wrap it up. So we have one more to go. Read, reflect, and we come back for week 12.
In a couple weeks.
In a couple weeks. Not next week, Adam, I don't think, because we're hosting something here next Saturday night. So we're going to try for 2 weeks. We'll chat about it outside of this. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, sweet prince.
good night. Kisses. You only do that when I'm not there in person, because
I know. I forgot to do it here. I even told myself.